Colbyjack.net is proud to present From the Flames by Trisha M. Wilson. The people of the fire, the Blesa, led by their queens, have ruled the island of Alfeyju and oppressed the Driva, the people of the ice, for more than 16 generations. With the Drivian King in hiding and little hope on the horizon, the Driva looked to one person to save them from the vile Blesa, the Diviana. According to legend, the divinely gifted Diviana will one day overthrow the Blesa and restore the Drivian King to his rightful throne. But with the search having lasted for more than 400 years, will the Diviana ever come to light? Willow is the slave of the Raskpil family. Bought at the age of 4, 20 years have passed since her life irrevocably changed. Her existence is no worse than any other slave, but within, Willow wonders if there isn't something more she should be doing with her life other than serving the ungrateful. Ordered to travel with her master's family to Sondertoft, so her master's adult children can take part in an ancient rite of passage, Willow is shocked when she learns that she too must participate. Will she fail, as all before her have? Will she rise to the challenge and become stronger after passing through the flames? From the Flames, Episode 1, Chapter 1, The Diviana. Willow found herself before an immense carved stone door. She lifted her hand to trace the engravings when the door disappeared. No trace of its existence remained. Beyond the stone door lay darkness, the type of darkness that only comes when the moon is new and the stars are hidden by clouds. The type of darkness rarely seen in the civilized world. Willow peered into the darkness, trying to see something, anything that would indicate what was ahead. Then, a tiny flicker of light caught her attention. Barely bigger than the flame of a candle, it drew Willow, piquing her curiosity, creating a yearning. Hesitantly, she crossed the threshold, approaching the light. She hadn't taken a half-dozen steps when the light disappeared, leaving her in the eternal darkness. Blind and disorientated, fear suddenly swept through her. Straining her eyes, Willow tried to find the light. But then a giant roar permeated the room, echoing off of the unseen walls. The sound was horrible, unexplainable. The ghastly noise had barely died down when a sudden brightness, a blinding brightness, appeared before her. It was a blaze brighter than the hottest man-made fire ever known. The blaze was both beautiful and frightening. Stumbling away from the heat, she looked around for water to put out the fire. There wasn't any. The flames grew in height and intensity with every second that passed, making Willow feel suddenly anxious. The scorching heat drenched her body, forcing her back to the safety of the cold stone doorway. But she found the carved stone door, absent only seconds before, blocking her way, blocking any means of escape. She ran her hands along the wall, trying to find a way out, but she found nothing. She was trapped. Trapped between the stone wall and the flames, Willow looked for some way out, but the fire's light was blinding. It was impossible for her to see anything beyond them. Willow tried to make her way around the flames, but no matter where she moved, the flames followed, keeping her a prisoner. After multiple thwarted attempts, and with the heat forever increasing, Willow decided she would have to go through the fire to get to safety. Taking a deep breath, she ran at the flames and jumped. The violent rocking of the ship woke Willow from her nightmare. Shaking her head clear of the terrifying images, the same ones she had been seeing for the last 2 weeks, it only took her a minute to remember where she was and why she was there. Her master had bought passage for her and his family on this ship, the Lif, in order for them all to get to Sondertoft. As to the why, that was more complicated. After she'd made sure her master and mistress were undisturbed, Willow sat up in the dimly lit cargo hold and marked the locations of the 3 other families who shared the space. Willow saw they were still asleep and relaxed. Every family in the hold was traveling to Sondertoft for the same reason, all with the same goal in mind: glory. Glory for their families, glory for their people. Turning over on her pallet, Willow tried to sleep. Between the rocking of the ship and the disturbing images floating through her mind, sleep proved to be impossible. The dream had been so vivid. She could have sworn she had actually been in the stone room with the blazing fire. Even lying in this muggy cargo hold, she could still feel the intense heat that only a furious inferno could produce. She wished she could leave the hold, go up on deck and get some fresh air, even if it was only for a minute. But she knew she couldn't. Captain Ati refused to let passengers walk on deck during the night. Too many dangers lurked on the deck, be they from the sea or from man. Closing her eyes, Willow tried to stop her mind from going over and over the nightmare. Tomorrow, they would arrive in Sondertoft. She had too many tasks to finish before they arrived and could not afford to miss even a few minutes of sleep. Finally, sleep took her. The nightmare stayed away, replaced by an idealized version of the coming day. "Wake up!" Naya ordered, shaking Willow. Waking, but not knowing exactly where she was, unlike last night, Willow asked, "Is it day already?" "Yes, lazy. Everyone else has been up for at least an hour. You should have been up a long time ago," Naya said, getting to her feet. Willow groaned silently to herself. She'd slept in. Again. The last time she had, Mistress Brigida had made her stay up all night mending clothes. Hopefully, she would be more lenient and overlook this small infraction. As Naya started to leave the hold, she said over her shoulder, "We'll be arriving at Sondertoft in a little while. Father wants you to gather all our things together, so we can leave as soon as we dock." "Of course," Willow said, getting to her feet. The second the door closed behind Naya, Willow quickly washed up and began to gather her master's family's belongings. Moving around their corner of the hold and gathering the clothing together, Willow was amazed at how far pieces of clothes had traveled from the trunk in only a day. Willow would have thought that at the age of 24, Naya and Iriki, the fraternal twin children of her master and mistress, would be able to keep their things neat, if only for a day. But then they weren't neat and tidy at home. Why should anything be different now? She finished packing the trunk and packs and arranged them neatly in their corner. Willow grabbed a pouch of dried berries that she'd spent hours hunting for and picking, and left the hold, intent on making it up to her mistress for sleeping in. She found the family standing on the main deck, looking over the railing. Willow was suddenly struck by how closely the twins resembled their parents. For being twins, one would expect Naya and Iriki to look alike, but in reality, they looked like their mother and father, respectively. Naya had Mistress Brigida's long blonde hair, tall, slender build, fair complexion, and graceful face. They looked so much alike that more than one stranger had asked if they were sisters, an observation that never failed to flatter Mistress Brigida. Niriki, on the other hand, favored his father, Master Bassi. Both men were tall, muscular, magnificently bronzed by the sun, and had chiseled faces. Ricky's ruggedly handsome features made the young, unmarried lassies of their village swoon every time he passed them. Altogether, they looked like the perfect Drivian family. Willow, on the other hand, did not fit into the picture-perfect scene. But that was only appropriate, as she was only a slave, bought and trained to serve the family's every need. She was not a true member of the family, no matter how many times she tried to tell herself differently. Not as tall as Naya, her build was just as slender, but instead of having long blonde hair, hers was brown. Willow also didn't have Naya's fair complexion. Instead, her skin was a golden bronze color, more appropriate for the slave she was instead of the pampered child Naya was. Willow walked up to them and asked, "Is anyone hungry?" The twins said yes, digging their hands in the pouch of dried berries Willow held out to them. Master Bassie declined, instead continuing to look out toward land. But it was Mistress Brigida's answer that caught Willow's full attention. "So you're finally awake?" "Yes, mistress," Willow said, lowering her eyes to the deck. "Tomorrow you will wake 2 hours earlier than normal and have everything ready for us. It will be Ricky's and Naya's big day, and I will not have you ruining it with your laziness. Understand?" "Yes, mistress. I'm sorry for sleeping in. I'll have everything ready for you tomorrow. I won't disappoint you again," Willow said, her eyes averted. "After all these years, you'd think I'd learn. Why is it that everything I do is wrong?" she thought. "See that you don't. Did you get all our things together?" Mistress Brigida asked. "Yes, mistress. All your belongings are packed away and stacked in your corner," Willow said. "Very good," Master Bassie said. "Captain Ati said we'll make land in about half an hour." That said, Willow's master and mistress turned back to look out toward land. Following their lead, Willow moved a little away from the family and gazed upon the land in front of her. High bluffs rose from the water's edge, appearing to tower over the ship. Jutting trees grew at angles out of the bluffs, looking drunken and haggard. Here there was no softness. The sea had been harsh to the land. This was dramatically different from what she was used to. In their little village of Kristhaller, the land sloped gently into the sea, enabling the fishermen to beach their ships with ease, or to allow anyone to dip their toes into the water on a hot summer's day. Here, however, the bluffs were treacherous. It appeared to Willow that if an unwise sea captain pushed his ship close enough, the bluffs and sea would conspire to break the ship into pieces and feed the crew to the famished waters. No, the bluffs were not inviting. They also made Willow wonder how they were going to dock at the village. Surely with ragged bluffs as far as the eye could see, there couldn't possibly be a port as close as Master claimed. He must have misunderstood the captain. Before Willow could further think upon the problem, Captain Ati yelled, "We're approaching Sondertoft! Be ready to disembark!" "Ricky, Naya, Willow, go get our things and bring them up," Master Bassie ordered. The trio fought their way through the press of passengers, each attempting to follow the captain's orders. As they entered the cargo hold, Willow navigated herself around the other families and said, "Here are your packs." Ricky and Naya collected their packs and headed topside, without acknowledging Willow. Willow looked after them. Why did I expect them to help me? She asked herself. Not even trying to come up with an answer, she turned to her own stuffed pack and the large trunk which held the majority of the family's belongings. The solid, 4-foot-long trunk was hard for Willow to manage on her own when it was empty. But fully packed with the family's clothes and personal items, it was nearly impossible. However, Willow knew better than to ask for help. The last time she'd done so, she'd been slapped and forced to go without food for an entire day. Securing the trunk closed and making sure it was well sealed, she grabbed the handles and lugged it up the swaying stairs and onto the deck. She immediately saw the change in the scenery. The difference from a few minutes ago amazed her. Instead of being on the sea with bluffs on one side, they were now within a fjord. A beautiful fjord with lush green hills climbing gently from the shore and into the distance surrounded the ship. A few hundred yards away, the fjord turned into a huge man-made port. Sleek, professionally crafted wooden docks jutted into the water, some longer for large ships, while others were shorter, intended for more modest boats. But these docks weren't empty or sparsely populated. No, there were more ships crowding the docks than she'd ever seen in her life. There must have been at least 50 ships of every shape and size tied off against the dock. Many of the ships reflected the woods and regions from which they were created, and ranged in color from dark and plain to the shining light browns of a wheat field. Other ships, however, were painted in bright colors covering almost every color of the rainbow. The vast array of colors were awe-inspiring. In keeping with the festival atmosphere, big, bold masts and intricate banners and flags covered every ship, celebrating the Lixfard festival. Her eye strayed to a particularly beautiful ship. It was carved from stem to stern and looked luxurious enough to carry royalty. Straining her eyes, she tried to see the carvings, but she was just too far away to see them clearly. What she could see were that the engravings were curved and apparently unending. A jolt from the ship dragged her eyes from the mysterious beauty to the town. Sondertoft was at least 4 times the size of Kristaller, much larger than she'd been expecting. Homes and businesses ran from the curve of the port and sprawled up into the hillsides. From a distance, it almost resembled an open fan, with the focal point being the main ramp connecting the dock to the town. Willow could see hundreds of people moving around the large, spacious streets, perusing the different shops and stands Sondertoft's residents had put together. Even from the deck of the lift, Willow could hear the fishmongers' cries, each competing against their fellow merchants to sell their freshest catch to the hungry masses. The warming morning air carried not only the sounds of 100 distant conversations, but also the merry tunes of uncountable minstrels. One tune, which survived the distance, spoke of an unending search and unspeakable power. She couldn't hear the rest of the song, but it piqued her interest, much like everything else she had seen from a distance. A few minutes later, Willow and her family stepped off the ship and onto the swaying, bustling dock that connected the various ships to the town. A few feet away from the ship, an older man decreed, 24-year-olds, sign up over here! Come, Master Bassi said, motioning the twins forward. Let's sign you up. Willow wrestled the heavy trunk onto the dock, trying hard to avoid bumping into anyone. She took a few steps down the bustling pier, intent on finding the inn Master Bassi had made reservations at, when she heard Mistress Brigida. Follow us, Willow. You might be needed. Leading the family, Master Bassi walked along the dock and up a ramp. On the landing, there was an older woman sitting at a battered table. On one side of the table was a stack of parchment held down by a paperweight depicting a sword stuck in a stone. On the other side, there was a brand-new quill sitting in an inkwell. When he was standing right before the woman, Master Bassi asked, Is this where we register? Yes, the woman said, pulling her quill, ink, and parchment nearer. She said, Who is to be signed up? Before I could answer, however, Mistress Brigida asked, Do slaves count? This work is released under Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Remix it, re-record it, transcribe it, share it. Just don't sell it or change the terms of the license. Your creation must be released under an Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike license. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.